Hey, what's going on? This is Joe McCall, Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast. Today, we're doing part 2 of the interview I started last week with Jason Centeno. I hope I pronounced that right, Jason. But we're going to be talking about more Airbnb good stuff, right? And you might have thought you understood Airbnb and you know how it works. But Jason's got a very unique approach on how to get into it without taking on a ton of risk. Kind of really a good, simple, easy way for beginners to get in on that. And so we're going to be continuing that discussion because listen, Airbnb is not dead. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be around for a long, long time. And if you want to learn a good way to profit from it, then stay tuned because on this podcast, we're going to help you with that. Okay. So first of all, though, this podcast is brought to you by yours truly. And if you go to simplelandcontract.com, you're going to get this thing right here. This is a one-page contract that I have done hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last few years in profits on flipping vacant land. And this is a deal that I did with my son this was not with my son. This deal was with my son, Luke, in Wilkes County, North Carolina. And we made $11,224 profit on this deal. We bought it for 76. It was a 5.08 acre lot in Wilkes County, North Carolina. We bought it for 7,600, sold it for 19,300 for a profit of $11,224 with my teenage son. And if you would like this contract for free, go to simplelandcontract.com. And on there, you're going to get an invite to watch a class where I teach you how to use this contract. This is another contract we did in Florida in the middle of nowhere. No offense to people who live in the middle of nowhere, Florida, but it is in the middle of nowhere. And this is a deal we bought for $3,700. We're selling it with owner financing. We got about $1,000 down, $1,500 down, and we're getting $250 a month for 5 years. So we're all in cash of about $2,200. Where else can you own a debt-free asset for only $2,200? Debt-free asset for $2,500 or so and get $250 a month cash flow. We're getting over 125% cash on cash return in the first year. And we bought this thing with a text and an electronic signature. We don't even talk to sellers until they get our offer. So I love these kinds of deals. And if you want, you can get the contract that we use at simplelandcontract.com, but you've got to watch the class after that when you go there. And I'm going to teach you how to use that. Okay. Cool. Enough of that. I got some more deals here. I love keeping these deals and putting them on my desk so I can talk to people about them when I'm doing things like this. All right. So we've got a good guest here, and his name is Jason. Let me unmute you, Jason. Sorry about that. How are you, man?
No, I'm just messing with you. I have one.
Very good. I knew that was going to happen.
All hype with your intro. I'm like, I need to start buying land, but
Come on.
I got.
Yes. Now we were on the you were on the podcast with me a week ago or so, and just give everybody quick. You have a resource. It's called a free vacation rental software and resource guide at joemccall.com/Centeno, CENTENO, C as in cat.
I think 10 cents. Yeah, just cents with an NO at the end, basically.
Very good.
There you go.
joemccall.com/Centeno, and I'll take you there in a minute and show you kind of what you get. But it's a really cool spreadsheet with a ton of different tools and software that you can use for property management for your Airbnb, pricing tools, cleaning management, market research tools, direct booking websites, smart home tools, accounting tools, insurance, background checks, electronic signatures, payment processors, and other cool resources like profit calculators, TaskRabbit, Trashmitter. Oh, I've heard of that company before. But yeah, you can get that whole thing for free, and it's amazing for free, 100%, no strings attached. joemccall.com/Centeno, CENTENO. All right, Jason, we were talking last time about like if somebody's new getting started, wants to do the Airbnb, and maybe doesn't want to go buy a property right away or can't. And maybe they don't have enough experience yet to take over somebody's property. and do it. You know what I mean? So we were talking about going to Facebook groups. Will you talk about that again and what you were talking about and how to, I want to wrap that up in a nice bow.
Yeah. So to reset the whole stage real quick, we're talking about if you were right now, this is the person we're talking about. You might not be this person. Somebody with a regular job, 9 to 5, decent money, wife and family, not, they listen to bigger pockets. They heard about Airbnb. They have a vehicle to get around with, and they make, maybe 70 to 80K a year at an accounting job. So we kind of ran through kind of what a person could do to get started, figuring out where they live and what flavor of Airbnb do they want to be. Do they want to own a property, do rental arbitrage or co-host? In this case, I don't know that we decided, but I'm just going to talk about, if you were, there's a way, if you did own a property, there's kind of a hack you could do. If you don't own a property, there's arbitrage, which is kind of renting one and then getting in, which, there's risk to that. Co-hosting is there's no real risk. You're just kind of working for someone, and whichever one presents itself, you should look into and know about it at least, right? But for co-hosting, I did caution that you should have some property management skill set before you take that on completely, because it's a lot more hands-on, low risk, but work, right? So we kind of stopped there. The Facebook group. So, they always tell you to go out there, network is your net worth. So the first thing we said was, hey, look around you, go through your phone, talk to people who actually already that that are landlords or that know landlords, right? Because that third party validation from somebody is always going to be better and easier. If they trust you, then maybe they can put in a word for you for, say, their uncle, their cousin, somebody who's maybe renting a room even or renting a house. There's an opportunity there for you. So like first look inside of that, right? And then if you want to and then the next step out would be, you can go to Facebook groups. I would say, go find a local Facebook group. We suggested some. I'm always making more, but anything, Airbnb host of like Philadelphia or Tampa or Florida or, wherever you are, just look that up, find some, look for an active community, start listening and asking questions, and seeing what the answers are. The search bars on Facebook groups are amazing when you got to know like regulations and license and this and that. You can just use the search bar like you would use Google, but just inside that group, and get a lot of answers to your questions. So you don't even have to go in there randomly like, oh, who can help me with this? Who can help me with that? You can literally just use the search bar, find it, sound way more intelligent and less thirsty and beggy like all the other people that come in there. So use your brain on that so that you look like you're at least halfway a professional and not just coming in and muddying up the water, so to speak, because, it's Airbnb. Wherever there's opportunities, it gets crowded. You kind of want to set yourself apart, right? So do that. And then there's also physical meetups you could probably go to if you could tap into them. For those, I would say even regular real estate meetups, you can find landlords who might want to take a chance on you. But like that's harder to break through because they're just meeting you. But at least if they see your face, they can tell a little bit more about you. So I would use those kind of 3 things. First, your network, then kind of spread out and get known in a Facebook group. Offer yourself to people. Say, hey, I want to learn the business. Who can I co-host for? Tap in, just what, like, let's say you don't have anything to play with yet. This will teach you how to play with other people's money first. So that's a low risk way of doing it. So that's kind of where we left off, right?
I like that.
Okay. So that's now you're in the game, you're swimming in the water, you're seeing who's around you. We're starting to learn the local market. Every day you're catching, set Google alerts or TalkWalker alerts for certain things you want to know about. And I don't know how to turn that off.
Was that you or me?
That's fine. It's annoying, but whatever.
That's all right.
That gets you sort of, like I said, now you have some information. Now you're the networking, great, and the internal sort of network that you have. Now I'm going to tell you a hack that I heard about. Let's pretend that your wife is on board with this and your kids. I want you to imagine this, right? You could do this to your own personal residence, and it's even a little bit easier, just as a test on weekends. Call it an adventure. And you could say to your family, listen, let's go this weekend and stay at grandma's house or your aunt's house or something. Let's go away for 3 days on a weekend family trip, but make it so that like you put your house on Airbnb for the weekend. There's a lot of things that benefits you can happen for this. Of course, there's control issues, but it teaches you a lot how to set up your house, put things away, keep your house clean, make pretty pictures of it. You have all these things. So, and if you have a messy wife like mine, you can kind of convince her to put things away, get rid of junk, right? Your house looks, if you had to sell it really quick, your house looks great. It's an investment, right? So I've heard of people starting out by simply doing stuff like that, or even if you're a single guy, you can go camp out on your buddy's couch for the weekend and rent your own place. And that that will teach you so much about like let's stay close by because maybe you're worried or you have control issues, but it'll teach you about how to set up the smart locks, where to put the cameras outside, obviously, how to like set up your house, how to keep update your house. And the benefit you get from this is now that you know this so intimately because you've been taking a chance, you can literally just rent your house every other weekend on the right weekends. Like let's say there's like they're going to do the World Series in Philly. Well, they did, that just passed, but if they're going to do
about the Phillies, by the way.
You don't have to complain. You don't have to cry. Well, whatever. That's over with. Anyway,
they made it there. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. It's that whole.
All right, we'll change the subject.
I mean, I'm not that crazy into sports anyway, so I'm not that hurt by it, but it did suck. Anyway, back on track. This is a good way for you to learn from the inside. Let's say you don't get these opportunities. I always hear people complaining on the sites. Nobody will let me rent from them. They don't know you, right? Like you're not speaking their language. You just have do something for me. Like you don't have intimate knowledge yet. This is a good way for you to get intimate knowledge and test out small and find out all the various things can go. And if you want to be a really good co-host or a manager or arbitrage person, wouldn't it be nice to know like, hey, the water pressure in your house, somebody might complain about that. So how do you fix that? There's all sorts of things that are going to present themselves. A and B, you're going to invest in an Airbnb anyway. Like you're going to have to buy towel sheets, stuff. So why not you get the benefit of that too, right? Like literally you can just make that out of your house. And I know people have done this. They started out that way and then they just kind of started to build from there. So don't ever count that part out, especially if you have a family and you're willing to do, like I said, an adventure. Go stay over your family's house. Take a little weekend vacation. It gets subsidized. Maybe that gets subsidized by the Airbnb income. I don't know, but don't be afraid to like think that small to go big because it's there for you. You have it at your fingertips and you control all of that. So that would be one place you could really just get your toe in, right? The next would be finding a place to rent or arbitrage. That could be, like I said, the friends and family. Like, imagine this. Hey, I'm renting out my house on Airbnb on the weekends. Oh, that's cool. Well, guess what? Now that you're successful at it for 2 months, people are asking you questions. Well, my buddy over here's got a house. Maybe he'll do it. Now you look like the expert because you're the only one doing it, right? Yeah. So this is how it comes together, right? So then, being, the idea of being a bird dog. Now that you know what you're doing, let's say you implemented that, and 4 months later it's going well. Now you have your first one. You could conceivably become a bird dog for real estate investors, right? Like say you're out there looking for places to rent, kind of like when you do what do you call it? Driving for dollars, right? Okay. You're looking for rentals though, right? And what can you do with those leads? Well, they could be your lead if they're in the right area that you want to Airbnb. But let's say they don't want to do that for you. Well, there's also investors out there looking to buy rentals too, to just straight up buy it. And if you become the go-between for that, you might interest the investor to buy that particular property, get a bird dog fee, and then say, hey, can I be your renter? I found you this. Now they already know who you are. They might give you a shot. So you see how you start to put these puzzle pieces together of all these skill sets that you get from being a regular real estate investor and turn them into this, this little jambalaya of skills that people are looking for when you're, in the short-term rental business. So that's another kind of tip I would say. You want to figure out a niche, right? So for people who are skittish about, like, they think they're going to put that on Airbnb and like people are just going to come. Oh, it's so hot. No, it doesn't really work that way. Just like it doesn't work that way in real estate. I'm a real estate investor. Okay, what do you specialize in? Oh, I buy real estate. Come on, are you a wholesaler? Are you doing subject twos? Are you a land guy? Like, what is your strength? Because nobody's good at everything. Like the guy doing my roof is not going to do my concrete. Like there's no, we don't trust that. We don't trust that jack of all trades. We need the niche person. So some of the niches that you might want to buckle down on, like especially if you're near a hospital, travel nurses, right? Like they're a solid, they're solid. Like the industry kind of changed, but if you want like some kind of middle ground where you don't want to have a permanent renter in your house, but let's say, you have a room, travel nurses are good, and they have basic needs, and they need quiet at certain times. But that might be a whole thing, especially if you have like a garage or some place a little bit separated from the house. They're usually 3-month stints. So the beauty of that is you don't have the same regulations, because most short-term rental regulations is they pack a lot of regulations on you. But anything over 30, 31 days or 28 days in some places is considered longer term. But travel nurses, obviously they travel, so you don't have to worry about people squatting or anything like that. They simply come in for like 3 months, and you just they need a furnished place to stay, and they pay above normal rent, and you're doing a service. So a niche like that, a lot of people go into that, but there's other ones like that around schools. It might be a place for like adjunct professors or students or what do you call it? People doing master's degrees, right? Like they travel to places, college, universities, but they don't want to live on campus. They don't want to live with other students and have that noise. They need a quiet place away. So you could go after just educators and stuff like that and put your stuff in a local college and have a place to rent, with the intent of only renting short term, and you'll get people for a semester, so 5-6 months, right? And that. So these are bigger opportunities, but you kind of got to think and say, well, who's not doing that? Who's not there for those guys? And that medium term rental is a way sweeter deal usually than short term, which is a lot more work, and long term, which is not a lot of work, but then you have the capacity to get a house ruined in 2 years. So there's a lot of pick your poison, as they say.
All right. Let me ask you some questions about that. Like, it seems to me from what I read in the newspaper, online, in the news, that more and more communities are like cracking down on Airbnbs, whether it's city councils or just HOAs and stuff like that. What are you seeing, for example, in Philadelphia with restrictions coming in?
Yeah. So in Philly, we actually have a fight going on, and there's a Facebook group called Sharing Philadelphia, specifically for that, the fight where we basically have a political lobbyist working on our behalf to fight the current regulations, because it's a big catch-22. They make you have multiple different things, and they make it confusing, and you got to pay a lawyer half the time just to wade through it. But the people that have the least problem are the people that actually live in the property, so it's a shared space. And that's kind of why I was trying to double down on that idea of shared space, because if you're doing something under your own roof, you have way more freedom to operate outside the short-term rental regulations than anybody coming into this being like, I'm a real estate investor, I'm going to get 40 of these things. Well, no, first of all, you're in the hospitality business now, so it's not a real estate investor state of mind where I'm just going to automate everything and people are going to run it for me. Doesn't work that way. In reality, you got to think hospitality, hotels, and they operate differently. But if you're going small and want to put your toe in the water, I would start with a basement, a garage, a mother-in-law suite, something under your own roof, because all those rules are a little bit different for you, and you can kind of skirt most of that drama in the beginning to figure out if you even want to continue down that path, versus go all in, spend 10, 15 grand to set up a place and find out they changed the regulation 6 months later, because they can do that. That was like my mic drop.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, so is that happening more and more? Are there still communities where it doesn't matter, you can still do Airbnb without restrictions?
Yeah, I mean, there's places like Florida you can't because it's like a vacation rental market. Like they try locally to do it, but it kind of gets smacked back into their laps. And beach towns and stuff like that, there's already stuff set up to kind of fight that. It's just that word Airbnb triggers people, so you kind of want to stay away from it. That's why they say short-term or vacation rentals. It has a little bit less of a stigma because, long story short, Airbnb got not the greatest name for a lot of the issues they do. Not that they're bad. It's just like everybody has their opinion of how it works, whether they're if they've enjoyed it, or whether they're a host, or whether they just the neighbor down the block and they happen to catch a bad party. We have bad actors everywhere, but they kind of everybody wants to point a finger. So the big bad right now is Airbnb, and of course your job is to avoid that what's the word the prejudice that comes with the Airbnb, and do things for your neighborhood that get you out of that. Because a lot of the times when they do these regulations, you can get things changed, but your neighbors get to vote on it. So if you're not a good neighbor, if you're not making every attempt to fix problem, you're taking yourself and everybody down with you. So these Facebook groups also help self-police a little bit. Like they advise, they tell you, like ours, they'll if they hear about a party going on and they can kind of identify, geez, I heard a story where somebody announced a party happening. Somebody Googled the hosts, kind of figured out who they were and reached them on Facebook and shut down a party from another state because they were trying to look out for that host, because they know that if it was them, they would want to shut it down too. So the host will self-police, good hosts. But again, everywhere there's 20% bad actors. It's in real estate, it's in every industry. And we only hear about in the news that 20% and not the rest that are doing right. So I don't want to take you too far down that track, but regulations are going to pop up. When you go medium term, you sort of take yourself out of the regulation realm. And what I mean is anything over 30 days. But that sweet spot is like 1 month to 6 month rentals, because maybe you have a little gap here and there, but you got better than average money, and you don't have the same issues as you would with regular tenants, because they don't move a bunch of stuff in there because they don't expect to be staying long. They have another house to go back to, right? So they really don't bring a lot of baggage with them. And one of the beautiful things about it is if you have properties that don't have they don't have a pool, or they don't have a big yard, or all these things that people want to live in long term, those are also high maintenance. So I used to pick stuff with concrete yards, very little maintenance, or anything that outside kind of stuff that you would need to do. Like I was just looking for stuff that had none of that, right? Because that's just more I got to put out there. But people passing through do not care about that stuff that much, right? So that was just me. That was my way of doing things. As a real estate investor, I'm like, how do I minimize expenses? That was some of the ways, right? So, if you're lucky, you'll niche down, and it's not that hard. You just kind of commit to it. There's all kinds of niches. I don't want to go into all of them, but I said travel nurses, doctors, and students. There's medical travelers. Like if you're around hospitals, again, cancer centers, stuff like that. People want to stay near their family, but the hotels are too far away. You could double down on that and just focus on people and helping families in that capacity. There's all kinds of things. You just got to decide and then stick to that game plan for a while, so that after 6 months, a year, you become the person that everybody knows that does that. And they always come to you first. You don't have to market anymore. You don't even have to be on Airbnb anymore and go through all this, other regulation stuff, because you got your own customers coming in. The rules don't apply to you anymore, and you're living nice. So it takes discipline to do that. So, if you're lucky, you find a landlord out there with multiple properties willing to give you a shot. That's an ideal outcome. I mean, let me talk about like furnishings, because that's going to always be like, how do we? What's some ways to do this? You can do the IKEA thing, and people go through Facebook groups. There's a lot of ways. To be honest with you, the Facebook groups, sometimes people want to shut their units down, and they go on fire sales. They're like, hey, I got a bunch of stuff to sell. Who wants it? And you can get some deals from that. So like you could just walk into another deal. Another thing about the Facebook groups too is sometimes people are like, I got to move. I got to get out of this market. Whatever job. Who wants to buy a fully furnished unit and take over the lease? Sometimes you just jump right into one of those. I mean, there's all these things, but let's say that's not you. It doesn't happen that way. You could put together something from, probably stuff in your garage and people, kind of decent, and then just buy a couple of things and find some colors to tie them all together. I think bright yellows, Yellows, greens, and blues as an accent, and then you could go with the grays and browns after.
Hmm.
They usually tie things together. You just kind of got to decide, hey, what's my pop color going to be, and what's my two other colors. I favored like gray, navy blue, and it could be it's like a sea moss green or like a goldenrod yellow, and then I kind of just went off of a theme, and then I just kind of replicated that. But you can start with something like that. You got the Facebook Marketplace, you got the buy sell groups, Craigslist free stuff, Salvation Army, Court or Rent a Center. Court is like a corporate rental, sort of like they'll rent you furniture. Only problem with them is I think they lock you into a year kind of contract. But if you needed to knock out a place quick, like 2 or 3 bedrooms, you can get something from Court probably in the $500 to $600 range a month. Remember, that's eating up your profit. It's more overhead, but at least you didn't have to go out there and spend $5,000 right away, right? So there's that. But you got Rent a Center, you can do a similar thing. Like I said, take some pieces, rent part of it. The good thing about Court, and I don't know about Rent a Center, but Court will replace anything broken. Like
Okay.
it's just you don't have to pay for that. So
Yeah.
if you think your tenants are going to be wild students breaking stuff, maybe Court, because they'll come and replace it right back out, which is cool because you took these nice pictures for your Airbnb. You don't want a person coming in and, oh, that's a different sofa. Give me my money back, because they'll do silliness like that. So
Wow.
that was a way to furnish quickly and easily. Some of these rental places, or put it together from Marketplace and some other places, and you can get away with, because Airbnb, you can get away with mismatching a couple things, but you can tie it together with colors, pictures, and like accents. Like you can tie almost anything together with that. And don't be afraid of you gotta buy like a sofa covering. Another thing too is, back to niches, is you can kind of go after people with pets, right? Like you can specifically, like if you like dogs, but like, hey, dog friendly, and you can actually charge a little bit more for that too. Um, Depends on who you are and how much of a clean freak you are, but there's more money in that. You can get that going.
Yeah.
People want to bring their pets with them. It's cheaper bringing them pet than necessarily putting them in a kennel or something like that for a couple of weeks. People do game the system in Airbnb, maybe not everywhere else, but oh, it's a service dog, you can't charge me. But it's one of these things. You can try it or not try it. It depends on you, right? Cleaning is always going to be like, who cleans these units? Now, if it was you, right, and this is your house, you're going to always be the best cleaner. I urge people to probably start with that, because it just came down this week. Airbnb, in an attempt to they call it transparency, they try to put out, like, what do they do in the TRID or the HUD, where they want to list everything out before you press the button. Even though they do it, they're just trying to make it a little bit more clear, because people get that sticker shock when it's like 40% higher because they don't do math, right? So they cleaning fees has been a big point of contention, and there's always this argument about, like, how much does it really cost to clean? Well, if you're paying people, you're at their mercy. You clean it yourself, you know how long it takes. You can become more competitive by not having a cleaning fee or having a really low one, and not make it look like it's a profit center. Now, everybody has their opinion about that, but if you were just starting out small, you should you should probably do the cleaning first, and then before you farm it out, because you're at that cleaning person's mercy too. And if they start charging you and it goes up and up and up, it eats into your profit. I'll give you an example of why cleaning fees can be so contentious, right? People might want to book. I don't suggest anybody doing a 1-day booking ever, because it's just inviting a party or or an illicit transaction most of the time. And we won't go deep into that, but yeah, like there's a lot of schemy things that go on with a 1-day booking, just like they would in a hotel. If you're charging $34 a night on a bedroom, but it costs you $75 to clean it, typically you're putting that as the cleaning fee, right? Which sounds crazy, but it can be like that, right? So who's going to book a room in a house in a shared space when after everything's said and done, it's $150? Or they could just go to a hotel and have none of that problem. You see what I'm saying? So the
Yeah.
1 day thing, one of the tricks is to price a 1 day so high that people just don't book it, and then kind of do discounts the more days you bill. But there's some work with that.
Yeah.
But keep that in mind that you're not dealing with a hotel, but you have overhead, right? You have your
Yeah.
electric bill, you have water, you have overhead, and $34 a night, you might just be breaking even, and that cleaning fee could set you over. But you're like, well, somebody's got to pay it. So in the beginning, I made that mistake, and I made it where I was doing that, and I was just like, I'm actually paying this person to stay in my property. I'm not
Mhm.
doing that. I'd rather be empty. So you got to figure out where those numbers are. If you have to go and say, hey, my electric bill's $300 a month, so every day this place is open, it's $30, whatever, $10 a day, or whatever, electric, and
Yeah.
$2 a day water, and whatever gas, and whatever cleaning, and like, okay, just to break even, I got to get this. Now, again, nobody wants empty days, and if you can get a break even, go for it, but that should never be your
Well,
goal.
I wanted to ask you about this because I've been seeing it in the news, people talking about it on Airbnb, and like some people are not doing Airbnb anymore because they're tired of the sticker shock where it's $100 a night, but then when they get the bill, it's 40% higher because of fees and cleaning fees and taxes and stuff like that. And they're paying, large, which feels like large cleaning fees, but then the owners are still asking the person staying there to take out the trash and put all of the sheets in the washing machine, and load the dishwasher and start the dish. Like, even though they're paying the cleaning fee, they're getting a huge long list of all the stuff they have to do before they leave, and they're like, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm just going to stay at a hotel room and not have to worry about any of that stuff, right? And it's
Yeah,
stressful because you're trying to leave to go to the airport or go, and you have to take care of all of this stuff. And so it seems like it's the pendulum has been swinging the other way. Like, people are thinking it's not worth the hassle. But how, as an Airbnb host, how do you solve that? How do you fix that problem? You just start charging more per night?
first of all, there has to be there's very little customer education, and they don't care. They started with air mattresses, and they treat it like you should be happy. They keep people are trying to compare Airbnb, like the normal the customer that they attract now. It's not like VBRO, which was you go there for vacation rentals, so you're going to a home. Airbnb diluted things and made people just say, well, it's like a hotel. No, it's not like a hotel. There's way, way, way more expenses for the owner than a hotel. They don't have economy of scale. And if
Sure.
you have no way of communicating that to a guest, like in your listing or whatever, or the amenities, like the different kind of amenities to match, they thinking, well, I might as well go to a hotel. And you're right. For 1 to 2 people, unless you really need quiet, and like saying during COVID, you needed to be away from people, it's not a good deal. It's not a good deal for the host, and it's not a good deal for the person that wants to book it. But they seem to think it is. It was a mechanism for people to get access to better things, better,
Yeah.
experiences per square foot than a hotel. Now, if you want to go and be like, well, the hotel got a free pool and they got free towels and all that, yeah, but you're still in this little box with no. And if you wanted that, then you should have went there in the first place.
Yeah,
If it's a
exactly.
price point, so the price shoppers, it was a price shop. It started out as a price shopping network, like, cheap and great, but then the industry changed because it was like, well, now we have access to all this thing. So you're really not, if you have a studio, 1 or even 2 bedroom, and a heavily populated, heavily saturated area, a hotel is probably going to be better for a lot of reasons, especially for 1 or 2 people. When it starts to make sense is for multiple people. Like when I have a family of 8. It always makes sense for me because either I got to rent 2 hotel rooms, or and I'm lucky if I can get them connected, or I need to rent an Airbnb, and it's that simple. So they're just marketing, they're
Yeah.
they're they're shotgun marketing, and they're getting all these people that want to experience luxury, but they don't want to pay it because that's their mindset. The Airbnb is supposed to be cheap, they never took the time or educated the customer because they don't care to know this is not for you. And I used to do that through my communications when people were like, I'm trying to save you money. I would tell people like, hey, listen, if you want to get this place cheaper, like say they wanted to book like 27 days. Here's the thing, in Philadelphia, let's say 27 days, you're going to get hit with the hotel tax and a couple other taxes. When you go past the 31-day mark, it goes away. So I would say, look, if you book 3 more days, you will get a discount. What? That doesn't make sense. Well, guess what? You no longer have to pay these taxes because you don't qualify under short-term rentals. So now you get a savings. What did it do? Gave me more occupancy. I gave a better deal. And I didn't even have to cut my prices. So stuff like that, you got to know and think through when you're playing this game on a higher level. But getting back to the one person, starting out, scrappy, just trying to fill it out, do your own cleaning for a while and then find somebody you trust to do it after and pay them decent wage. If it takes them an hour, pay them $20-$25. And then that's the cost. You can put that as your cleaning fee. You don't ever want to get to a place where you're paying someone $50 no matter what, and you're only getting 1 day of occupancy because then you're going to always be upside down. So you got to know, you got to figure out where that sweet spot is, and then do everything you can to fill those days, and try to keep that cleaning expense down. Unless be friends with a cleaner. I don't know what better way to say it, or just that's always going to be a point where people start to lose. And we're going to see that now in the market when they start posting those cleaning fees, that anybody who was paying cleaners these flat, these certain rates that were high, they're going to have to start going back to companies that do it per hour. And they might have to start eating some of that. And they're going to have to start making their stays longer on purpose just to absorb that cost. So again,
you're saying Airbnb is starting to be more transparent on the cleaning fees and the service fees?
They just announced it due to what you just mentioned, like this week, literally 4 or 5 days ago, that they're going to basically give you this. It's not yet. It's going to start getting implemented. They're going to give you like this very easy to read thing before you can even press the book button. That's what they say. And it was, in not retaliation, in answering to that big, because social media is so smart and everybody knows better than you.
Right.
The complaint, to address that complaint in a way where don't book if you can't fathom like this is going to be the end price. And when you're in this process of trying to book, if you want to sit there and argue with a host about it shouldn't cost this much, you might as well just go find someplace else. Because
I totally agree. And I can understand.
Forget it. Yeah.
I understand what you're talking about, because that's why we get Airbnbs, is because I got a family of 6 and I just don't want to stay in a big hotel room or try to find 2 hotel rooms next to each other. But is this what you're talking about? I looked in Philadelphia, and by the way, I should mention this too, with all the talk that you're hearing of all the cities are getting strict on Airbnbs and it's getting harder and harder to do. That may be the case, but there's still a ton of really nice rental of Airbnbs in Philadelphia that I was just looking at. So as an example here, though, this is a property I found. I don't remember where. It's in the city somewhere. And this is now they're saying $195 times 5 nights, cleaning fee, service fee, total before taxes. Is this what is new right here, where they're showing this now?
I think it's going to be a little bit deeper than that. I mean,
Okay.
I think it might be almost to the point where if you press reserve, it might pop up again. They haven't implemented it yet. It's still too new. Yeah, I mean, maybe see price details. So they're kind of making sure. They're kind of making sure. And I will mention too that what you're seeing there may go away January 3rd because of the regulations. So that's part of the fight. Like they don't. The city wants to limit it to a specific zoning, which is CMX3, and CMX3 if you don't live there. And CMX3, it's typically just apartments.
No.
There's no residences like this. They're just apartments. So you might as well just be in a hotel again. So they don't realize how stupid they sound. Yeah. That they're basically going to, but the hotel people knew, the people that lobby for the hotel knew. It's just that politicians can't think past, whoever pad their pocket the most. And of course they're gonna poo-poo everything. And they're like, well, where did all the Airbnbs go? Where's all the nice stuff? idiots. You made it so that nobody could rent nice houses anymore or special accommodations because the zoning isn't there and you're not giving anybody any choice. Like you shut this down. Now you're complaining about it. We've been telling you forever because they don't think. So anyway,
that'll come, and that'll be probably a good thing. Like looking here, and we got to wrap this up in about 5-10 minutes. But I'm just here at Philadelphia. By the way, Philadelphia is a beautiful town.
I want to make sure I say 2 more things before we go for the person who's just starting. But go ahead.
Yes. Well, here in Philadelphia, I scroll down. There's a lot of properties here, nice ones, and there's 15 pages. So I don't know how many that is. So you're saying by the end of the year in January that this is going to change?
Let me see. I want to see that area. So you see that the center of Philadelphia, you see the 69 and
I don't know what just happened there.
You went out. Okay. So you see that kind of orange section you're in?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You're literally gonna only, but if those orange kind of things are about the only places you're gonna find any sort of Airbnbs, because those are all the places where there's the CMX3 and above sort of zonings. You're not gonna find them anywhere else in the city because they don't exist. They're meant for buildings of a certain height. I want to say 40 feet and up. Units, I think it's got to be over 8. It can be as low as 5 units, but it's usually 8 and up. And generally they have sprinkler systems. So all that to say is anything you see that is not like that light orange, that's about all the places they're going to be. Anywhere outside of that, all the other cool spots where parks are not going to be there, because unless you live in the property. Again, if you have a small mansion and you can cut it in half or rent, you can do it that way. But you have to actually be living there. It's got to be under your name. It can't be some corporation entity or nothing like that. It's got to add up with you and your name, and you got to live there a certain amount of the time of the year. That's what they're trying to enforce now that we're fighting. So and there's flavors of that other places, but yeah, I know you got to wrap up. Let me leave you with these.
So what were the things you're going to say? The 2 things.
No keys, only get smart locks. Why? A million reasons, but specifically because you don't ever want people like this having keys to a house. So get smart locks, use codes. And when they get out of hand, you change codes. You don't have to sit there and I got to get the cops to get you out of here. No, the minute you walk out the door, I'm changing codes. Now you're going to have to prove that you belong here. To that end, even get rid of mailboxes. Don't let them get mail there. None of that stuff. Always really vet people and see that they live somewhere else, that they're not somebody from, like, we hated locals. We don't rent to locals unless you came through a real estate agent that said, hey, we're in escrow. The house isn't ready for another month. They got to get out of this lease. Can we have your place? That kind of stuff. Yes, but definitely do due diligence on that. Always check for those IDs. Make sure it's a good one.
So don't rent to locals. That's interesting.
I know, not in Philly. Even didn't like renting to New York and New Jersey because they'll pull the same stuff, right? So, Florida, great. You got another place to go from here. You're too close to me. You're just looking for your next place to crash for a while for free. The analysis, I mean, you can kind of just do what you just did and kind of see what nightly rates are. That's different. I'm going to say something that is probably controversial, but do it. Your first 5 reviews on Airbnb are very important. If I were you, I would put my settings to no more than 7 days in the beginning and limit them out 3 months. And then you go find people to go rent your place for 1 night or 2 nights. Go, and you want them to go and just to basically beat it up. Tell me all the things that are wrong and give you a good review. Now, when you reach 5 reviews, first of all, it looks good. It looks like you've been in business a while. And second, they automatically start marketing you on your behalf. Some people feel some kind of way about that. I'll be honest with you. I don't, because that's their system they created that system. They set up those hurdles. I understand that it was supposed to be for the good, but put out a good product, do the right thing, obviously. But if you go out there and you haven't tested out if you can't stay in the place yourself, you might not know, like the shower doesn't drain or stuff like that. You rather have that happen to friends of yours,
Yeah.
and then they tell you and you can fix it, than get slammed in a review, and then your first 3 reviews are all stuff you could have fixed if you would have did what I just said. And now you got to start all over again, get a new account, go through all the hoops again. I would say, unfortunately, pad your first 5 reviews with people that you know, or anybody you know is going to give you a decent review or a chance to make it up. And after that, do the right thing. Don't be a scumbag. Don't do it with a junker place, and just do it to see what you can do, because you will get knocked off the platform pretty quickly. But I do that as a, what do you call it? Training wheels for going live, because you're going to discover in there all these little mistakes that happen that you don't want to do on somebody who doesn't know you, because to them it's what do you call it? It's DEFCON 5 when you do it to somebody that doesn't know you. You know what I mean? With your friends, you can fix it, you can get it right, you can give them the money back, or you can call it even, you can just give it to them as a gift. Point is, don't let anybody book more than 7 days straight from your day out the gate, because if anything goes wrong and they booked a month and you're all happy, like if something goes wrong in day 5, your whole month is gone. They're going to give them all their money back. You just screwed your whole month, and you don't have a review to show for it, or you have a bad one. So now what? So you don't do the long stays in the first 5 reviews. Turn that off. Don't get happy about it. You need those first 5 reviews as soon as possible, or you're going to get stuck as soon as Airbnb, like you're no longer new on there. They don't give you the SEO juice. Like you'll just be screwed, and you'll be like, well, I don't got any more bookings because you didn't play it the right way. So that was it. I want to make sure I.
Well, what other, do you have any? We got a few more minutes here too. What other advice do you have for people wanting to get into more Airbnb?
Airbnb. Okay, so the attitude of hospitality. If you don't like people, or you have low patience, find a partner. Maybe that's your wife. You don't want to be the guy talking to the people. Okay, find that person to talk to them, because the minute you talk to them kind of funny, you're a racist. Point blank. It doesn't even matter if it was me and you doing it to each other.
Yeah.
That's the first card they pull. They just find a way. So there's that. It's the sharing economy. And I think the reason why Airbnb is getting a lot of pushback now is because the sharing economy was built, Americans, okay. In other countries, Airbnb is not getting this pushback because they get hospitality and sharing. Americans are inherently me first and selfish. What can I get the most out of? And that includes the guests, the hosts, the cleaning companies, and all the service people around it. Everybody's, what can I hear there's money in here. I need my piece. It's just, unfortunately, it's our culture. Other countries do get it, and it's not the attitude you get out there. So they're not having this pushback. So what's changed is the host attitude, and to be fair, vice versa, everybody else. So the value proposition and, the culture's got to change around it. The neighborhoods, the same thing, me first, the government, where's my money? So until it gets back to the sharing economy and being a good host and really having the right heart for it and the gratitude attitude, so to speak, it's going to be a hard fit in America. You'll still have your log cabins and your tree houses and all your other cool stuff where people are, they get that and they want to share that at any cost because it gives them pleasure to do so. But until we get these other me first, let me get my money while I can, and this is everybody across the board, we're going to keep getting this pushback until it either breaks or something else develops, which is what's happening. But, till then, we're just going to be hearing a bunch of complaining. And that's it. That's my take on why this is starting to get such pushbacks, especially them.
Yeah.
So,
okay. All right. Jason or JoeMcCall.com. Let me move my screen here so I can see it better. JoeMcCall.com/Centeno. And if you go there, you're going to be taken to a site. Oh, I just had it open. Where did it go? Let's just go there right now. And I'm going to share my screen with you all. And I want to show you this really cool spreadsheet that you're going to get. All right. I'm going to share my screen here. Boom, boom, boom. Do, 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 do. All right. You're going to get this tab. You guys see that? Cool. Let me make it a little bigger. Boom. There you go. All right. And then if you scroll down, you're going to get this resource list. And you click this. And walk through this spreadsheet real quick. When people get this, it's view only. So if you want to add this to your Google Doc, you go to File, make a copy, or download it as a spreadsheet. But talk about, Jason, what this is. This why did you build this, and what are all the columns about and stuff?
So yeah, so I try to update this occasionally. Some of this stuff have changed, like Guesty Pro and Guesty kind of absorbed another one. But these are like a lot of the sort of tools that you may need over time, especially if you go with more than two Airbnbs. Definitely you're going to need a pricing software. You're going to want, finding cleaners. You have those options in there. It's like kind of like, you have your Rolodex of contractors. If you have a house, you got your siding guy, your roofing guy, your concrete guy. And this is all sort of what you can choose from depending on what you're like. Go down a little bit, right? I'm going to show you something. No, I mean, I'm sorry, up, right about there. Okay, direct roping. So these are all sites that you could create your own personal booking website, which I highly recommend for everybody. So you don't have to rely only on Airbnb. When you get on Airbnb, you already paid for this customer and you paid a pretty price. So what do you pay per lead, right, Joe? Like, hey, it's $9 per lead, awesome. And you're in real estate, $100 per lead, oh, that's okay, but you're doing higher end transactions. So once you get that customer's information, you should do everything in your power to get them off of that platform. You get their email, their phone number, and you start getting them to be a direct booking customer, because it's a way better experience if you can deal with the person directly, and you already tested out how they are. So if you want that customer again, you get them into one of these. So Alfie, you can make your own sites, and what's cool there is there's on the marketplace. Wix is like you can make your own websites, kind of like what you just saw with what I did with Canva. And I would say go through these, and those are the costs of it. FabStays is like I know the guy who does that. That's like if you're like LGBTQ and you kind of want to just focus on people that are inclusive in your head. All the stories we have about being discriminated against in some way. Well, you know what? There's something for you there too. So you could do one of those, right? Smart tools, like you're not allowed to put cameras inside your property. Supposedly, even if you got nanny cams and all, which I kind of get, but I kind of don't get, because if I'm renting my $1 million mansion and I have a teddy bear camera to keep the nanny from doing something, I'm not going to just go clean out all the cameras in my house because you're coming to stay. So whatever, that's another argument for another time. But these are all kind of tools to that you might want to check out. To like, I'll give you an idea. Minute is cool because it's like a thing you put in your ceiling, but instead of being a camera, it monitors like how many Wi-Fi's are tapped in and noise levels and things like that. So you can tell if there's a party going out without having cameras, because you have all this data and you can warn them. And some of these are having to do with like how do people get keys. I say never give people keys, but sometimes you have to give them gate keys and other kind of keys. So they're, depending on where your property is. Party Squatcher is a version of the thing with it turns off the Wi-Fi, or just it monitors Wi-Fi. So I would just go through and kind of look through all of them. Buzz Jarvis is if you're in apartment buildings and you kind of want people have to get buzzed in, this will eliminate the buzzing part out of the equation. So there's all these things in there, and I update it at times. Like I see Buzz Jarvis link is not there, I got to put it in, but at least you know what it is if you need to look it up.
Google it.
Accounting
tools,
insurance, that you're going to go through some fun with that. Everybody has different opinions. I would go in whatever group you're in, like Facebook group you might have attached to, and start asking for recommendations. But if you didn't go to any Facebook group and you were looking for this kind of stuff, it's all kind of right here for you to start poking around and save yourself hours on Google. You know what I mean? So,
and you can do background checks, electronic signatures.
I mean, how much of that you want to spend your time doing is up to you, but so that's what that is. It's kind of just like a bunch of things that I found. Click on them and see if it's going to work for you, and take what you can use and leave the rest. You know what I mean? And if you make a copy of it, you can dump the stuff you hate and keep the stuff you love. You know what I mean? Do what you did. That's what I did. I took it from somewhere else and I added to it and redid it the way, and so on and so on. So hopefully that be valuable to you too.
It is. And you can get that spreadsheet at joemccall.com/Centeno, Cent, like cent, ENO, Centeno. Cool. All right, Jason, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Really appreciate you. If somebody just wants to get more information about you or follow you, is there a social platform you're more spend more time on?
Probably Facebook. If you look up the dad next door, either that or with an underscore after, you're gonna find me personally. And I don't know if you see around me, but I got like all these cartoon characters. So just look for the cartoon icon. That's the way I stay immortal, by the way. My hair never changes and I always look young. And then the trash meter stuff, it would be like the business stuff. But yeah, that was set up off of being a host and trying to solve some of these problems. So there you go.
Well, good, man. I appreciate you being a voice for the industry too. It's, just in a small way, at least in Philadelphia, and now maybe a little more national. There are good Airbnb hosts out there, and you're one of them. So thank you, Jason.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you for having me on, because I know that I had in case you guys want to get on this, understand something. You have to go through a little bit of a gauntlet. Joe's not having people on here trying to self promote, so you better come with some value. Come with some heat. So that's why we came up with this game of what if we had to start from 0 and get to the 1. And really, I hope that this takes you from, if you can go back and get the points, from 0 to 1. That's what you really need to get to. And then you can decide from there if you want to go up or down. But that 0 to 1, of course, it's the trickiest part. And hopefully I gave you some tips on how you could just do it with your own house even, So
yeah, that was helpful. Very, very, thank you very much, Jason. We'll see you guys later. Thank you, Jason. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.